Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need.
Welcome everyone, Igor and Ryan here. Today we're going to be talking about running, and this is a medal from a half marathon, and that was one of my big goals this year, and we actually did it, so we're going to be talking about that experience.
Yeah, we had an episode previously about running and the benefits of running. 2 weeks ago, we completed our first half marathon, and it was a tricky endeavor because both of us were going through different injuries. We were both actually struggling with a knee injury, and myself, I was unsure whether I could complete the marathon. You were even more unsure. I think you
Yes.
decided a week before that you were going to
It was
try
so
and
funny.
do
Yeah.
it.
And that was in part because you were so committed to doing it, and I was like, oh man, if you're so committed, then I want to do it too.
Yeah, so we ended up completing it, which was a huge accomplishment. And we completed it in a decent amount of time too, but that wasn't the point. The point was we were able to complete it, and we came away with no serious injury, obviously,
Yes,
which
we
was
can
a
walk, which is
great
good.
bonus. But more importantly, I think what we did, not only completing the half marathon, we took away a lot of lessons that we have been applying to our life and reflecting about since we've completed the marathon. We want to share some of those with you.
So the first thing I want to talk about is the idea of acquiring a void that Murakami talks about. And in life, our minds are so busy constantly. We're thinking about so many things that it's important to clear the mind, right? So meditation obviously does this, but running is another way to acquire that void, so to speak. In the anime Running with the Wind, which we recommend if you're interested in running at all, there's also the idea that the characters talk about feeling clean, feeling like cleansed from running. And a lot of it is when you push your body physically, all of a sudden you're giving your mind a chance to rest. Some people were like, for example, me and Ryan, we were writing a lot of essays in university, and we were constantly reading, thinking, which I love, but at the same time, you start overthinking stuff. You need to get out of it. You need a break from it. And running for me really helped me through university because it gave me that space from it. It gave me some perspective where all of a sudden some things seemed so important in my mind. But once I actually got my body going, it actually put everything in perspective. It like imagine like a telescope kind of thing, and then the thing that you think is such a big deal, you're looking at with a telescope, and then after you run, all of a sudden you remove the telescope and you see it for what it is, and you see life for what it is. So it doesn't seem as big of an issue anymore. So that was one of the big benefits that I got from running, but I think you can also get from other stuff like meditation. But I think no matter what, it's very important to have those moments of acquiring a void, of not thinking, like overthinking, right? So that we can actually take a break, come back more clear minded, and do a better job.
Yeah, and for myself, speaking of meditation, running for me has almost become meditation. I have struggled the last while to incorporate meditation in my daily schedule. I tried to do it in my when I get up, and I could never quite fit it into my schedule or feel motivated to meditate. And really, what running has done for my mind is it clears my mind when I run. I'm not really thinking about the future. I'm just thinking about the here and now, which is something that meditation does. It makes me just look and appreciate at the various things that are around me. If I'm running outside, I appreciate the nature around me. If I'm inside, I sometimes just focus on one thing in the room, whether it be I'm in a gym or at home, and I just focus on that thing, something I would have never focused on before.
Yeah. So just on that, it's the idea of also being present to the moment. Because yeah, you're right. When you're running, it teaches you to be present because if you're constantly waiting to get to the destination, often there isn't even one. Or if you're just waiting constantly to be done and seeing how much you'll be done, it takes much longer. It's much more grueling experience than if you just let go, surrender to the moment, and enjoy running. Then all of a sudden, it's a much better experience. And that's pretty much how it is with everything in life.
Yeah, and speaking of being able to meditate, something that's related, another lesson that running helped me develop was the ability to be patient. So often in life we want to fast track things. We want a job quickly right out of university. We want to be able to acquire a lot of money. We want to put out content, or write something and for it to be an instant hit. But this never happens, right? And this is a stress that a lot of millennials like ourselves are dealing with. We realize that results aren't fast, and when they don't come quickly, we get stressed. We feel empty. We feel like our life is meaningless. But what's important to realize is that patience is an important part of life and that it takes time for things to develop. So, what running allowed me to do was it allowed me to appreciate that being able to run a half marathon will take time. It'll take training. I can't just all of a sudden run one because I want to run one, right? I have to be able to put in the work and slowly put in the work, especially because it's a physical activity. So running definitely allowed me to be patient as well when I run, especially run long distances. What I have to realize is that I can't just run out of the gate really quickly. If I do that, I probably won't be able to finish the race because I'll have no energy left. I have to start a little bit slower when I'm in the middle of the race. A lot of people say there's this kind of block, running block you hit around a certain mile point. It depends on if you're running a half marathon or a full marathon. But I know myself, when I was running the half marathon, probably around the 10 mile mark, I started feeling really gassed and I really questioned, can I continue doing this? And then I realized, let's just be patient. Don't worry about reaching the end. Just worry about one step in front of the other. And that really helped. So patience really helped me, running really helped me develop that skill to be a bit more patient with other things besides running.
I 100% agree. And part of it is the needing to rest. So, for example, I got into running before Ryan did. And because of that, I felt almost like untouchable in the sense that I ran for years, not as consistently, but I just ran for years. So I thought, oh, when Ryan hurt his knee, he originally hurt it before me. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I've never had that injury. I thought I wouldn't have it, right? We were running every day, long distances. And then eventually he went to on vacation, not vacation, to teach in England, and he rested his knee there. Well, I ran here, and during a normal 5K run, which is not at all a lot for us, I injured my knee. It was crazy. I could barely return home. Like I was, every step hurt. I was having trouble. I had to like limp back. And that to me showed me you can't just, push until you get to where you want to be and there is no end really, because with running, you can always do more, just like in life, for money, with business, right? With YouTube, you can grow more and more subscribers. With money, you can make million, 10 million, 100 million, right? It never stops. So what's really important is that you don't just keep pushing, or else you'll end up like we did and hurt your knee, or metaphorically, whatever, deal with burnout or whatever the equivalent is. You actually have to take your rest periods. You have to understand that, okay, it's not all about, pushing. Sometimes it's about resting and preparing to push again and stuff like that. So that's definitely transfers over. You can't just rush things. You have to have that patience, and you have to know that sometimes you need rest.
For sure. Myself, the way I injured my knee was after we completed our 10-kilometer race in the spring, I decided, well, naturally, I'll just start running half a marathon without any sort of incremental training, going up a kilometer every week and going slowly at it. So what happened was I ended up hurting my knee, similar to your injury. I could barely walk back to my house because I hurt it so much, and it was this nagging injury continually. And basically, right now I'm going for physio to help. It's helped a lot because I'm able to run without any sort of pain. But if I didn't take that time to rest it, I probably wouldn't have been able to finish the half marathon.
And I just wanted to add to that yeah, once you're injured, you really need patience, because then you really notice that. I remember Ryan was starting up again because he injured his knee before me, and then I needed to kind of walk or do other stuff while he was running. And me being kind of like the person who introduced him to running, I was kind of like, this sucks. I have to, but I couldn't keep up anymore because I had to actually worry about my knee. So that's another thing. Like, you really need to sometimes accept the situation as it is and not think, I want to be there right now. No, some things like injuries, especially, take time to heal, and then you can go again eventually. The other thing we wanted to talk about is that running helps turn adversity into strength. And Murakami talks about this too, actually, in his book, What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. And he talks about the fact that, let's say he has a bad conversation with someone, or he feels like someone close to him, like his wife, doesn't understand him. What he'll do is run a bit longer, right? He'll turn that emotional feelings that he has, the emotional anguish is a strong word, but let's say some kind of emotional pain, and then he'll turn it into running further and building more muscles, getting stronger in that sense. And I think that's an amazing thing, and I found that that's definitely the case. Let's say when I was in stressed out situations, when I had emotional situations, whether it was about school, about breakups, about family disputes with my brother. Me and my brother sometimes we argue. Like running helps really blow off steam, and not only that, you feel like you can run longer and you become a better runner. So it's like this kind of alchemy where you can take experiences that at face value look bad and turn it into something amazing by running. So that's one of the best things I think that running has offered me personally.
And another thing that relates to turning adversity into strength is the idea of how running is something that's considered kind of voluntary discomfort training. What I mean by that is that when you are running, you are purposely putting yourself through pain, especially if you're running long distance. So you're signing up to go through something uncomfortable. And I think that's important, and that's an important life lesson to put yourself through, because so many things in life are uncomfortable, and so many things you have to do that you don't necessarily want to do, or they don't feel good. There's pain that is involved in it. And I think running is a great kind of training ground that allows you to push through pain, push through adversity, and be able to succeed. And I think that has a ripple effect for other things.
Yes. It's like a muscle you build, just like you build muscles when you work out. You build the willpower muscle, right? And we feel resistance towards stuff that's important to us, whether it's read Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art, if you haven't. But usually when stuff is going to take us to a higher place, metaphorically, like getting down and finally starting that business we always wanted to start, following our dreams, writing that book, writing that essay even, we feel resistance because it's so important to us. And we'd rather be lazy and postpone it, and that's why people procrastinate. But running is a thing that gives you that mental strength so that you actually train those willpower muscles. I remember when I was running during the half marathon, my brain, especially in the last like 4 to 1 kilometers, my brain was like, oh, that's enough. You already ran like a half marathon distance. It wasn't an official event, but it's okay. You already ran it. You can stop now. Oh, you haven't run for a while. Oh, your knee hurts. Oh, like you're running out of breath. Your cardio hasn't kept up. Every single excuse that could come up for me to stop running, my brain was feeding me. And I just did not listen. I kept going. And that way, like I felt amazing afterwards, right? Because my brain was telling me to do one thing and I kept pushing through and I didn't listen. And it's the same when your brain's like, oh, don't worry about that essay. Watch another movie. It's okay. The essay you can always do tomorrow. No, step up, do that essay. Cold showers are kind of the same thing. That really builds like that willpower muscle, because no matter how many times you do it, you're still like freaking out when you actually have to do it. So there are different things you could do like that, right? Stepping up, working on that essay right away, cold showers, sitting down to meditate, and running, especially long distances that challenge you mentally and not just physically. Those are great ways to build that muscle.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If you're going to run long distances, especially if you're new to it, like I was, you're going to go through pain. I'm just warning you. You cannot avoid pain. So eventually, when I start running long distance and I start feeling that pain, what I tell myself is, this is normal, right? I don't say, oh my goodness, I want to get away from this. I'm saying, this is normal. I just have to deal with it. So that applies to so many things in life. So often we're in uncomfortable situations where we say, we can't start this new endeavor because things aren't perfect. Mm-hmm. Things are never going to be perfect. You're always going to be going through adversity in some sense. So just know that you have to just continue to keep on.
And even recording this video, like we probably had a bit of resistance beforehand because we haven't recorded a video in a while. But yeah, you got to push through and just keep going and then do it and get better as you go.
Exactly. Another lesson I want to share with you about running is how running teaches us how some things are outside of our control. So when we are running, we can only focus on ourselves. We can't be focusing on the other runners. If we notice people are passing us, we're going to start feeling bad about ourselves. If we notice we're passing other people, we may go on some sort of high and speed up really quickly, and that could hurt us in the long run. What we have to worry about is just the stuff we're able to control. If you notice that your body is starting to break down when you're running, which is something very normal, especially if you're new to running, just know that, listen, if you can't complete it, it's something that you don't have any control over. You have to kind of accept it and move on. Ourselves, when we were running, especially when we were going through our injuries, we couldn't run, 10, 15 kilometers when our injury was flaring up. If we did, we'd put ourselves into more of a bad situation. I know myself, 2 weeks before I ran the half marathon, I tried training 18 kilometers and basically my injury was flaring up so much. I told myself, listen, if I keep going, I'm going to hurt myself. This is out of my control right now. I'm just going to leave it be, and then hopefully I'll be able to recover in 2 weeks. So I think what running allows us to do, it has that, again, that ripple effect outside of itself, and it allows us to understand how in life there are things that we could put effort into, things that we could put mental effort into, physical effort into, and other things that we just have absolutely no control over. If you apply to a job, the only thing you could have an effect on is how you prepare for the interview and how you respond to the questions. You have absolutely no control over if they choose you. Just like if you're in school and you're writing an essay, all you can worry about is the effort you put into writing that essay, not the mark you're given. So I think that running allows you to understand how there are some things that we're able to change, and there's some things that no matter how hard we try, we can't 100% have control over.
And I had to experience this big time when we were doing the half marathon because Ryan actually, I don't know what it is, but at official events, you tend to do like better than me. And then like usually when practice, like I'm the one who was like rushing to the end and Ryan's like keeping up. But yeah, I don't know, for whatever it is, on both days when we did the 10K and we did the half marathon, you finished strong. So one of the things during the half marathon specifically, it was that I felt the knee, and Ryan kept moving, and I'm like, okay, go, because like I can't go faster, and I know he probably wants a good time, so I'm just like, go, do it. And that was hard for me in a sense, because I'm like, oh, Ryan's like past me, he's beating me, he's like the time is like quicker. Other people are passing me, right? Because I had to really like go slow because I was feeling my knee. I even had to go off road for a bit because like it hurt too much to like run on the pavement kind of thing. So it was more like damp, like it was more dampened on the side of the road. And I was like running and I was just, I had to remind myself, this is not in your control. It's the same if I couldn't run. If I was like injured, I can't cry about it because I'm not in control. So I just let go of that. And then I decided my goal from the beginning of the year was to finish a half marathon without walking. So it doesn't matter who passes me. As long as I stick to that goal, that's all that matters to me. And that's kind of what I focused on. And yeah, it's hard because the first event, especially, you start seeing people passing you and you're like, oh man, you want to compare yourself to them. But you can't because a lot of them, let's say, are more experienced than you. And a lot of them do like run and then walk, right? Rest, run and then rest. If you're doing no walking, you're going to be in a different situation. So I had someone that I kept catching up with, and then they started running again. And the thing with that was they'd run fast, but then they'd walk. So they were doing it differently. So if I compared myself before knowing what was going on, then all of a sudden I would have been in a situation where, I lose my pace, I go too quick, too fast, and then I see they start walking, but I'm not walking, so I'm at a disadvantage, right? So you got to just focus on yourself, and it's the same thing in life. No matter what things seem like now with other people, when you compare yourself, social media, everyone puts their best face forward, present themselves in the best way possible on social media, and you can't compare that because, yeah, maybe they started that business that you still haven't started, but maybe you'll start a business and it'll end up being way bigger than theirs, for example, or something like that. So you can never judge where you are compared to where other people are because you don't really have the complete story. So that's what I'm saying. Take a big picture view of it. This was one race, right? It wasn't that big of a deal. We are runners and we're going to keep running. So always keep that in mind. Think about you, try to complete your goals, try to be better than you were yesterday, but don't worry if someone appears to be doing better than you in a specific way right now, because that might not be the case for long, and it might not even be the case if you had the full picture. And one last thing I want to bring up was that running teaches you also, it taught me, how important it is to have positive people and supportive people around you, because we were in a situation where Ryan started running, and that helped me out a lot because a lot of other people told me, I'm not getting into specifics, but a lot of other people told me not to run, that that's foolish, half marathons, foolish, human beings weren't meant to do that stuff. Even right up to the night before, to the day before, someone told me that, oh, don't do it. Just, we have a busy weekend. Don't worry about that. Don't worry. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna do it. And I kept facing that kind of resistance from other people about me actually doing it. And so it was really important having Ryan there, who also pushed me, and he was so committed to it, and it inspired me to actually do my best as well. And when we were actually at the run, it was amazing because we had our friends and family there to support us. And when they were there, I remember thinking like, oh, I don't want to finish weak, right? Because they're going to be there. So I ended up like finishing strong. And they actually motivate me, the people there, to give it a strong finish, right? They motivate you to do better than you would have if they weren't there. So having people that support you along the way in running is important, and in life it's super important as well. Because if you only have people who are constantly telling you you can't do something, you might eventually start to believe them, right? Because they say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If all of those 5 people are saying, oh, running is terrible, don't run, you can't do it, you might start to believe it. But having more people there that will support you, like even maybe Ryan, some people that will also run with you, do the same stuff in life, have a positive mindset, that's invaluable. And I think that's a big reason why we were both able to go from barely running at the beginning of the year to being able to do a half marathon.
Yeah, and that's the thing I love about marathon, half marathon, 10K, 5K events. It's such a positive environment and it really gets you motivated. Like you have even complete strangers cheering for you on the sidelines, and it really pumps you up. And it really, for myself, it really makes you feel optimistic about like the human race. Even like so often we're like
Nice.
we're cynical,
Nice.
right?
That's
We're
deep.
cynical of where we've gotten to be, right? We're a jealous species, but no, like everyone's cheering for each other, everyone's happy, even runners themselves. Like we're passing by, giving each other high fives on the turnaround. And I think like it's really uplifting to see how it's such a positive environment when you go to one of these runs. So, I mean, if you're thinking about doing one of these things, one of these runs, I really recommend it, even for the sake of if it's a 5K, just being able to see how positive that environment is. And if you are interested in running or learning more about running, one person who I'm reading right now, listening to a lot of his interviews, is Dean Carnassius, who's someone who he's called the ultra marathon man. He ran over 100 miles multiple times, and he has a goal of running in every continent in the world. And he's this crazy influential guy, a businessman as well. And he talks a lot about how running does so many things for him outside of just physical activity, right? And so I highly recommend, if you're interested in running, read his book, Ultra Marathon Man. He wrote another book that came out not so long ago called Road to Sparta, all about the history of the marathon. It'll pump you up if you're interested in running a marathon, learning about its history, its roots, and how that origin can have a connection with us today. So highly recommend his work.
And even if you don't want to run, because it's not for everyone, right? People who naturally want to gravitate towards running. I know me, I saw it on an anime and I felt motivated to do it like 4 years ago. And then I had to like just go out because I was so into it. Hajime no Ippo, the anime is called. And I had to start running. There was something in me that just wanted to do it. So I do think some people are more predisposed to running. We're not trying to push it on anyone. But let's say even if you don't want to go running, just hopefully you learn something from these lessons because they do apply in every area of life.
For sure. And I think running is something that a lot of people would consider is mundane. It's repetitive. For some people, it could be boring. But I think what running teaches us is that some of those mundane, repetitive tasks we complete throughout the day could actually provide us with meaning and lessons. So I think running can teach us how these seemingly unimportant things in our life have great meaning, great importance.
Exactly. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. We're so excited to make these videos and we're so excited to actually be done the half marathon because that was a huge goal of mine. So that's amazing that I actually managed to accomplish it and Ryan managed to accomplish it too. So that's amazing. Thanks for watching. And until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.